Hey, I'm Nick, and today I'm going to make a resin Jello Blob. Let's get started. First thing I need to do is make a sculpture of what the Jello is going to look like. I'm going to warm up this clay and sculpt it into the basic form. Okay, I finished sculpting the base form of the Jello. I used a heat gun to heat up the outside to give it a shiny texture because the texture you get in the mold is going to be the texture of the final resin. So now I'm going to make a silicone mold of this, and once that's cured, then we'll pour the resin in. I'm going to be kind of lazy and just use this bucket as my mold box, and then I'll just pour the silicone directly into here. Let's Resin has generously sent me all of the silicone and resin supplies I'm going to use in this project. You can find the links to all the products in the description below. I'm going to start by making the silicone mold. This is a two-part silicone rubber that you mix 1-to-1, so it's the same amount of A as B. So I'm going to mix up 24 ounces. So I'm going to do 12 ounces of A and 12 ounces of B, and then mix it up and pour it into the mold box. Okay, this is part A. I'm going to pour in 12 ounces. Okay, this is part B. I'm going to put in another 12 ounces. It says to mix it for about 3 minutes. Make sure that you're scraping the sides and really mixing thoroughly. One of the best ways to make sure that you don't get bubbles in your mold is to pour from the side and let the silicone rise up over the sculpture. That way you're less likely to trap bubbles in there. This is also a fairly slow curing silicone, so it should really let all the bubbles out by itself. I've let the silicone cure for 24 hours now, and you can see it's fully set. So I'm gonna demold it and start getting ready to pour the resin. You can see we got a pretty nice clean mold. I'm going to clean it out with a little bit of rubbing alcohol just to make sure that any clay that got stuck in it is gone. I'm going to use a transparent green resin to pour into the mold, and I want to embed these eyes and teeth into it like this, which I have never tried before, but I think I'm going to have to pour 2 separate layers. And once it gels up, I'll put these in, let that cure, and then put the final layer of resin in. Just like the silicone, I'm going to be using resin sent to me by Let's Resin. This is clear epoxy resin, which I'm going to add some neon powder to. I've chosen the color neon green. I'm just going to put a very, very tiny amount so it looks like Jello. When you're working with resin, make sure that you follow all of the safety precautions. I'm going to wear these gloves and a respirator. Before I mix this resin, I just thought of one thing, which is that I'm going to make 2 separate pours, so I want the colors to be consistent. So I'm going to pour my A resin into a glass jar and pigment that, and then I'll be able to use this resin whenever I make a pour so that the colors should be the same. Hopefully that's going to work. Here's the casting. It turned out pretty well, but I'm just going to sand down the outside and add a coat of UV resin so that it's really nice and shiny. I'm using Let's Resin UV Resin Clear Hard Type. Here's the final resin Jello Blob. If I was going to do it again, I would change a few things. From the bottom you can see it's totally clear on the inside, but it caught some bubbles on the edges. So I would take a stick or a paintbrush and just rub the edges of the mold while I was pouring the resin in to knock all the bubbles off the sides so that the front and everything can be perfectly clear. And I would also put the eyes and the teeth much closer to the edge because the refraction inside kind of distorts and makes it hard to see the eyes and the teeth. But for our first try at this, I think it turned out pretty well. Let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you for watching.